Welcome back, and let's continue, Freeman, with that talk about dark matter. With the CERN and so on, they're actually delving into what's called the astral or the spirit particle that was actually commissioned by the Vatican to specifically ask CERN for these questions. And you talked about dark matter and RICs. Let's talk about that for a second, and the fact that they are literally, if you want to call it, parsing the very nature of reality itself.
It's true, and many people wonder, why is gold so critical to this movement? Why has it been something that we have been mining on planet Earth since the gods told us to? The questions of gold are really astounding when you start to come to their technological understanding. So RIC, or the relativistic heavy ion collider, which is in Brookhaven National Laboratory, has managed to punch a bubble into mirror symmetry of particles. So what they've done now is collided two heavy nuclei of gold to recreate on a tiny scale the early universe. So very much the same as what we're talking about with CERN. But what happened is they managed to punch a bubble, and this then allowed for symmetry to be lost. And so as they detected and expected particular events to occur from the collision, they found that there was a non-symmetry that occurred. And we've got to realize that RIC, the relativistic heavy ion collider, their colliders are named Phoenix and Star. And these both play heavily into Aleister Crowley's religion and his extraterrestrial contact. And then, you realize that CERN is Atlas and Alice. So we're dealing with the king of Atlantis and Alice through the looking glass, or portal.
Now, it's interesting. I'm actually negotiating with a manufacturer of a product that I'm not going to release the name yet, that's taken from seawater. Most people don't realize that seawater, most of the gold on Earth is actually in the oceans of Earth. You can actually, if you could mine the gold from the seawater, pump it out and collect it, you would have thousands of times more gold than all the gold mines on the planet. So the waters of the oceans is literally a form of Oramus with all these trace elements and minerals that have washed down all the ancient waterways and mountains over billions of years. So, in a sense, it really isn't Earth. It isn't even water. It's a gold planet. Our Earth has gold, and of course gold is created in the ancient stars. Gold is very interesting in its properties. It never oxidizes, so it doesn't rust. It also has properties where it attaches to the histone proteins of DNA, and it's what's called a hyperdimensional scalar amplifier. So that when you take Oramus, which is present naturally in the special sacred cocoa bean, not just the regular one, which is very tiny amounts, but the sacred cocoa bean and the red wine grapes, it has some interesting properties, not only extending human lifespan and preventing the activation of genes that cause aging, but it amplifies consciousness in a hyperdimensional way. It has direct effects on the pineal gland, what I call the vortex astral eye, the hyperdimensional eye. Just like in the little bee that navigates back to its little hive, it has to see what's called vortex images of the lines of flux of the Earth's structure of the geomagnetosphere. We, literally with our astral eye, see in these higher dimensional planes because of the nature of what we are. And of course all animals have this. It's not just particular. And it's part of the brain. It actually has these small particles called magnetite that allow that navigation to occur. But Oramus, or gold, is very important. So when Moses ground up the calf to make the people drink these, quote, waters of bitterness, they're actually drinking Oramus, or monoatomic gold. And gold has some very interesting properties on hyperdimensional physics. So please continue.
Yes, so that's where we start to understand our ancient past. You made me think of the large column that's sitting out in front of New Delhi, which is an iron post, too large to have been smelted in the time that it's said to have been created. Definitely stands there staring at us, saying, that there was technology in our ancient past that we don't understand. And this was made of an iron that didn't rust as well, which we only can find on the moon. So it's possible we have to take in these ancient understandings in order to understand where the leaders are going. So.
Yeah, those ancient forms of iron had to incorporate things like magnesium, manganese, and titanium in order for them to prevent it from rusting. And in fact, some of these metals are actually classified, because I know the guys that were machining them for the government to make nose cones on intercontinental ballistic missiles. And they made iron, titanium, magnesium, manganese alloys with special quantities, long listed numbers, that are stronger than regular titanium and will never rust and can take thousands and tens of thousands of degrees and won't melt when they come in for 17,000, 18,000 miles per hour. So, yeah, and of course these technologies tell us that the ancient world had technologies that are in many ways at least more advanced than our public technologies, but most people don't realize that the lettered agencies are all a sacred interlocked directorate of occultic organizations of various names from every culture and religion on the planet, and that the lettered agencies run all the corporations, and the corporations run all the governments. So if people don't understand this hierarchy, they will not understand that the occultists, if you want to call it, the super scientists, the hyperdimensional avatars of this channeled information, if you want to call it, they're running the planet.
Yes, exactly.
And people don't know. They think, oh, you're just talking in circles. I don't understand you, Dr. Deagle. I said, well, that's the problem. The problem is you're not going to hear this from your pastor. You're not going to hear about the battle between good and evil. You're not going to hear about the suppressed energy technology or the fact that ancient mankind fell literally from grace from the creator of the universe, that we fell into a galactic and cosmic war that destroyed most of civilization, and that we crawled out of the muck and are building ourselves back up again. And, of course, the same monsters are active channeling information to destroy us again.
And to lead us down a path. They absolutely have an agenda for us, an agenda for themselves. And they are guiding us into a warfare. They're trying to heighten the excitement between Muslims and Christians. They're trying to get the Zionists and Islam to fight. And we're going to see a lot of that as they start to move. But we got to realize where the earth is going at the same time. As we're talking about these ancient religions, at the same time, we've now come up with a synapse on a chip. So what they're calling a mem resistor, which is a new portion onto a chip, which now allows it to have the ability to be very uncannily close to human mind synapse connections.
Yeah, that was actually developed at the University of Calgary and an institute in Germany. What's it called? I'm trying to remember the name of the institute there. Very well-known name. And they actually create these biochips, which are neurons growing on electronic chips. And they can create neural arrays. They can actually incorporate them inside machines now. So they've got, literally, in a sense, neural array or quantum neural programming that can literally drive these machines now.
Yeah, we're about to have brain-like computers. Then we find that Dmitry Medvedev is making amendments to the federal law on the temporary prohibition of human cloning.
Yeah, which, of course, by the way, the Russians and the Americans and the Europeans were collaborating for years, taking science from the Nazis, and they succeeded in cloning in 1982 at the Moscow Institute for Biological Research. And they were in process collaborating on the super soldier program conceived by the Nazis when they split the scientists up with Operation Paperclip between here and the former Soviet Union, and we call former Soviet Union. The Soviet Union never stopped existing. It's ridiculous. So yeah, they can clone. It's no big deal. It really isn't. They just don't want it to be public, even though the Council of Rabbis in Israel has fully accepted it 10 years ago that cloning's fine. Back in a moment.